As Lara Jean prepares for the end of high school and the start of adulthood, a pair of life-changing trips leads her to reimagine what her life with her family, friends, and Peter will look like after graduation. Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new Netflix movie review, and today we're discussing the third film of the franchise, To All the Boys, Always and Forever. Really looking forward to letting you all know my thoughts of this film, and if you all should check it out in the spoiler-free review. But before we dive into it, as you can see on the screen now, make sure you all are following me on all my other social media accounts, which you can find those links in the description below. If you are new to the channel, welcome to this community. Consider subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It really helps out the channel, but I also appreciate all the support. And in the comment section, let me know if you all were looking forward to this film. And of course, once you've seen the movie, let's break it down. Let me know your pros, your cons, your thoughts of the story. Do you want to see more from this franchise? But more importantly, since this is number 3, which is your favorite out of the 3? Let me know that in the comments below. So going into this third film, man, I've seen all 3 movies. I've reviewed them on the channel. We're reviewing the third one now, and I'll say this, and you can see my reviews for the previous 2. I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it kind of, played within the realm of teen rom-coms. It wasn't too stereotypical. It was a fun film, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Part 2, I was not a fan of at all. I can't remember the character's name. I think it was John Ambrose. The chemistry between John and Lara Jean just wasn't there for me. I felt like the supporting characters were like forgotten about or forced into the narrative, so I'm not a fan of the second one. So I was kind of on the fence about this third one. I was hoping that it was more in the line than the first one and nowhere near the second one, and here we are discussing it. Starting off with my positives, one thing I will say, as far as consistency within the 3 films, it's the chemistry with Lara Jean and Peter. They're better than ever. This might be the best that they've been in an entire franchise because they've had the history, they have the backstory, they have the character growth, and I felt like their on-screen presence just felt more natural than ever. And not that it wasn't natural in the previous 2, but I felt like, again, with time with these characters, again, we've met these characters. It's been 3 years now, so they feel like they know who the characters are, they know their mannerisms, they know how they would be in this relationship, and you feel that on screen. So again, no matter my thoughts of the second one, my thoughts on the first one, and this one, one thing that is consistent is the chemistry between Lara Jean and Peter, which was just, again, great. It might be my favorite of the entire franchise, which brings me to some other characters. The supporting characters, again, I didn't like the second one for many reasons, but one being I felt the supporting characters were either A, forgotten about, or B, they were kind of thrown into the mix. It didn't feel natural, didn't feel organic. I felt like they just put them in the movie because they were fan favorites. But this one feels more of the line of the first film. It felt natural to the script. It felt natural to the narrative, whether it be Lara Jean's father and his continued relationship with Tree, whether it be Margaret, Lara Jean's older sister, who's dealing with, how is it having a stepmom now and having her into the mix. Her best friends, of course, we get more from Peter and Lara Jean, but also my favorite character of the entire franchise is Kitty. You get more of her, and she was just so great. This is probably my favorite of Kitty, and she was the best thing in part 2, but she's even funnier. She has a certain love interest herself in third one. So again, the supporting characters just felt more natural, and I felt like they weren't forced and felt that they were actually a part of the film. And then speaking of just kind of the focusing on the narrative here, again, we're dealing with love and teen love in particular. But one thing about love, man, there's no guidebook to it. There's no rule book to it. And I like how this film stayed focused on the idea of love going against different odds, but in particularly long distance relationships. Now, without spoilers, of course, I've read it in Synopsis. If you've seen the trailer, Lara Jean and Peter are going off to college. They want to go to Stanford. Peter gets accepted. Lara Jean doesn't. She gets accepted to go to Berkeley, which is only, I believe, an hour away from Stanford. And they're kind of happy with that situation. But then there's the senior trip, and then she falls in love with New York, which is much different than falling in love with another person, as we saw in the second one. Peter's odds against New York City is a big feat to kind of go over. So seeing them kind of handle that, I felt like the film didn't lose focus of the narrative. There wasn't like a bunch of subplots. It didn't convolute the story. It focused on this relationship and how they're going to handle this long distance relationship. So I love that the film stayed focused on that narrative and also just tackling relationships. No matter if you are in high school or not, relationships are about compromising, right? And I love in this film that regardless of how Lara Jean and Peter's relationship was, she has to focus on what is best for her and her future. So I love that the film kind of focused on that as well, which brings me to some other smaller things that I appreciated. I think this film has my favorite soundtrack, and I thought the soundtrack throughout the 3 films was great, but this might be my favorite of the 3. And also the look and feel of this movie. You have the director who's also, he was the cinematographer of the first film and became the director of the second one, now the third one. this looks beautiful. I mean, all three films look good, but you know, we're in Korea, we're in New York. I thought that this was probably the best looking film out of all three. Transition and switching gears to my criticism. The first film is about an hour and 40 minutes. The second film, I think, is an hour and 42 minutes. This one is almost pushing 2 hours. It's like an hour and 55 minutes. I personally think they could have probably cut out about 10 to 15 minutes and been more of a cohesive, a little bit more put together script, and didn't have to be almost 2 hours. And at times it felt like it dragged on. The pacing was fine, but there were moments like, we didn't really need that in the film. So I definitely think they could have trimmed off about 10 to 15 minutes from the movie. Little nitpick here, and look, here's the thing with genre films, rom-coms, comedy, horrors, they all have their tropes, right? It's just a matter of how they execute, how they handle the tropes, and there are moments in this film where it's just like, you kind of roll your eyes, you kind of know where things are headed. It's very predictable at times, and again, you know what you're getting into, and this is the third film in the franchise. The movies, they know exactly who their audience is, they know exactly what they're trying to do in this movie, but there are those moments where it's just like, okay, let me check my email, let me check my text message, because there are moments where I kind of checked out when those stereotypical tropes became something pivotal in the script of the film. Going into something that is a franchise thing, that's a little bit of a nitpick. Everything just seems so perfect, whether it be the house they're in, the food they eat, the clothes they wear, the relationships just seem a little bit too easy. The film feels like you're watching a fantasy world at times. It almost doesn't feel like placed in reality. So that's like a nitpick that I have about the entire franchise. It feels like Netflix and HGTV produced this film, because again, everything just looks perfect. It doesn't look lived in, especially like Lara Jean's room is just like the stereotypical Pinterest teenage girl room. It's just almost too perfect at times for my personal taste. And then lastly, I appreciate the film trying to give Peter a subplot involving a family member of his that we really haven't heard that much of in the franchise or actually seen. I appreciate that, but I felt like it was forced. I didn't feel like it was, the acting was fine in those moments, and I love that actor. I won't reveal who it is, but I felt like when we get to those moments, it felt like it was just the reason they gave us this character, it just felt like it was only meant to give us one subplot in regards to Peter fighting for love, and it didn't feel like it was served anything else. So again, that particular character, that particular subplot for Peter didn't feel organic to the story. It just felt like it was placed there to give Peter a life lesson versus giving like Peter a genuine moment with that character. So those are my cons. Before I give you all my overall score and my overall thoughts, make sure if you haven't already to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, that way you don't miss any of my other content. With that being said, let me share with you all my score and my overall thoughts. So overall, I thought that this film was more in the lines of the first film, which is hands down the best in the franchise in my opinion. Lara Jean and Peter are still the king and queen of the Netflix team rom-com couples, and their chemistry is still great. The supporting characters fit well within the narrative. It definitely has its flaws, but I enjoyed my time watching it, and I don't believe this is the last time that we'll see these characters. Overall, I'll give To All the Boys, Always and Forever a 3.5 out of 5, and in regards to my rankings, I'll go number 1, number 3, and number 2. I really enjoyed this film, and I recommend you all give it a watch, especially if you are a fan of this franchise. I think that you will definitely have a good time with this movie, and even if you haven't seen the previous two, you might not get all the nuances of the performances and the character backstory, but I still think this is a good film for anyone to watch, and that's why I recommend it. So those are my thoughts of this film. Let me know what you all thought about the movie, your pros, your cons, your thoughts of the story, which is your favorite out of the three, and if you want to see more, what would you like to see? I definitely could see them having a freshman year in college, a senior year, or a follow-up after college film, and this one has to happen. You have to have a kiddie spinoff series or a kiddie spinoff film a couple years down the line, but let me know your thoughts on that. But as always, thank you all for watching this review. Make sure to like the review, share the review, leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, that way you don't miss any of my other content. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you in the next video.